Okay, we are live, everyone. Hey, Tracy. I'm so glad to see everybody. We have some new people in our Zoom, and I'm so excited. We're going to do introductions first. So if anybody in the Zoom would like to introduce yourself, you are totally welcome to do that. I am so happy to be here with you on a Tuesday. We are going to talk about our hot mess of a society. And our topic tonight is talking about the cultic seduction of American society. Like, y'all, we just got to talk about it and get into it and really just look at how everything is unwinding right now, where we are, and let's leave with the path forward. My name is Camila Bywaters. I'm currently a special education teacher, and I'm the co-chair for LAVAPSI and the National Association for Equal Justice in America. And I'm really excited to be on here with you tonight. I just started a new role with the Clark County Democratic Party. I will be the third vice chair, so I'm really looking forward to working with the clubs and the caucuses to, building our structure and building our network. So I'm really excited about this work, y'all. It's a lot of work, but it's joyful work, and I'm so excited to build community with our community all across Clark County. And we're going to have so many events happening, and you are all welcome to join. We just look forward to just building and, at this point, saving democracy. So I'm going to have my co-host Rodney introduce himself, and then Tracy, and then anyone else who would like to talk, you can definitely introduce yourself, and then we'll just get started talking how we do.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rodney Smith. I am a facilitator of the gathering that happens every Friday at 5 p.m. until whenever people stop talking at WSO at 808 West Lake Mead Boulevard. And one of the hugest supporters of Miss soon to be Dr. Camila Bywaters. And congratulations on your position with the Democratic Party. That was slipped by me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's been a lot of good things happening. Um, I I finally made it to the next step in my dissertation. And y'all know, listen, we gonna celebrate too, kind of out of line, because y'all know you all have been on this journey listening to me gripe about this dissertation. So I finally made it through my proposal defense, going to the next stage. So I have my new edit, so I'm back to writing. I had a little bit of a break after my proposal. And then the other thing that we did was presented SB 331, and the bill is designed to ensure that schools provide interventions for students who have behavior challenges or issues or make a mistake in school, that they have to be provided an intervention before they can be suspended or expelled. So I'm really excited about that bill. It was heard on March 31st with the Senate Education Committee. So we're hoping that it will get passed once that time comes. But it's just a really exciting time. There's so much work to do and something for all of us to be engaged in. So I'm just really excited to be a part of forward movement. Tracy.
Good evening, everyone. I am Tracy Lewis, co-chair, I'm sorry, guys, co-chair of LAVAPSI, co-chair of NASIA, the National Alliance of Equal Justice, and also the president of Wake Up. And I'm here for the shenanigans tonight. Got the CCSD is still at it, so we may have some parents coming in that are having some issues that should be handled at the school level or the associate superintendent's level. So I'm not happy about having to call the interim superintendent about basic, simple things that's just common sense. But there is a lot of work to do. I am here as a disruptor at this point in my life. So those who have issues, concerns, or whatever, you have my number, you have my email, you know how to get a hold of me, but we just don't have time to play the games no more. We have too much that's at stake. And I'm just paying attention to a lot of the individuals and groups that are trying to mimic one another or coming up with projects or proposals, and then they're taking them from one organization to another organization. Like, we really don't have time for those type of games. We all need to be on one page, whether you like each other or not. We should be able to sit in a room and come up with a solution for whatever the problem is. So that's just my little soapbox for right now. And I will turn it over to whomever wants to introduce themselves, but also congratulations, Camilla,
Thank
on
you.
third vice, and we're moving forward. So thank you
Yes,
guys for
we
everything.
are. We are. Anyone else wanted to introduce themselves?
I'll go ahead since I'm new to the group. My
Um,
name is Janan Hendricks. I'm a substitute teacher, not district, but out of district, because I'm also a minister at Nehemiah Ministries. So I'm substitute at a Christian school, but I'm also in my doctorate program for transformative social change. And so I'm excited to be a part of this group because I want to be out there trying to make changes and stuff. So,
I
yeah.
love it. I love it.
And
Awesome.
also, I don't know,
Transformative.
Go
I'm
ahead. I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. Janan, you can continue.
Oh, okay. And also, I know this is last minute, but we're also at Nehemiah Ministries having a community action event on Saturday. And so if any of you guys can come out, I know we're gonna stop accepting people by tomorrow afternoon to be a part of it. But this seems like this perfect group to invite out. So if you guys want to come out to the event, it's to be at Nehemiah Ministries. So
Thank you for sharing. And if anybody else has events too, please feel free to share as well. And if you send us the flyer too.
So let me add this really quick. So thank you, Ms. Hendricks, for that. And as a FYI for the Reverend Dr. Kelsey West, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you've done as far as collaborating with LAVAPSI and doing all of the community events that you've been engaged and involved in. Please, community, come out and support the sneaker ball that he is having. Get an ad if you can't purchase a ticket. And we're planning on getting an ad. So I just want to make sure that we have put that out there and to give Dr. Kelsey, let me go back because I want to make sure everybody get all of their proper titles. The Reverend Dr. Kelsey West, his props and everything that he is doing, because everybody is becoming a Reverend Dr. something. So we want to make sure we give them all of their accolades and all of the titles that's supposed to go in there and charge it to our heads and not our hearts if we miss one of those titles. And amen. And I'm not a preacher, by the way. So thank you.
Next up.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Levi Schultz, the president of the Nevada Veterans Caucus and the Nevada Veterans Fund. We're a 501c3 and C4 that provide legislative and charity advocacy for veterans. And I'm excited to be here. It's great that Tracy sent me the information for the group, and I look forward to contributing to the conversation that we're going to have tonight. We also have an event this Saturday. It's at Veterans Town Hall from 10 a.m. to noon at Boy Scouts of America. We're going to have food there, so food and coffee. So feel free to drop by, have some food, have some coffee, and let your voice be heard.
Levi, what's the location of that? The actual address?
It is. Let me see. It's on Paradise Road here. Let me see. I'll bring up the flyer here.
And is this the group that Mikey Kelly used to be the chairman of?
Kind of. We morphed into our own thing, and I made it a 501c3 and C4. So we kind of went independent with it and grew it. So it's now we're statewide, and we do stuff in Reno and down here in Vegas.
So is there two separate groups? Does Mikey have one and you have one, or is it the same group that just sort of stretched its wings?
So it's the same group, but Mikey Kelly isn't involved anymore, and we've grown quite exponentially.
Gotcha.
So the address is 7220 Paradise Road.
Okay, and if you get a chance, put it in the chat also, just in case.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
And Mr. Levi, don't be shy. Let them know that you also work with Evelyn Pacheco with Nevada Women in Trade, and that there are some things that are happening that I've just been privy to. So do you want to touch on that a little bit so that our listening audience and our panelists know what's going on in the wonderful world of veterans right now?
Sure. Yeah. So so there's a lot of I guess I could be frank with the group that we have here. So there's a lot of like I would say high school nonsense that's happening at the legislature, like around veterans issues, and it's around Evelyn's trade bill, so AB 222, and this is a bill that will provide a lot of equity for women and veterans in trade. So, I've made calls to Assemblywoman Considine. I've made calls to Vince over at Building Trades. And I have been dealing with the slippage in traction for this bill. This bill passed both the Senate and the Assembly last legislative session, but right now it's not even going to get a work session. We're trying to get it done by Friday, and I've been on the horn with a lot of legislators on the Government Affairs Committee. But the thing that's most disheartening about the bill is that you have Assembly folks like Venice Karras, who is a retired electrician and a woman that is not, who's on the fence about supporting the bill. So, to me, it doesn't make sense that we have, and they always lead with the fact that we have a majority woman legislature. But it seems like when a Black woman puts up a bill that is to support equity in the trades, that every force that can within the Democratic Party, the party of fairness, equity, and inclusion, blocks the bill and then says, oh, next time. So, for me, I'm big on supporting that because I know that women veterans don't get a lot of support and a lot of visibility. So I'm big on elevating that in Nevada Women in Trades, in the Nevada Veterans Caucus. And, I've been doing everything I can to try to get this bill through. And I've even told these representatives or these assembly folks, if you turn your back on Nevada Veterans Caucus, we'll turn our backs on you when it comes time for endorsements. So that's what we've been dealing with. But it's been with not just that, but it's been with anything that it seems with veterans and with the people who are actually in the community doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And one thing real quick, Levi, I know that you said you were talking to our small group. We are on Facebook Live.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's going to probably be a bigger group.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that level of transparency is important in this
Absolutely.
era because
Yeah, sure.
we're in unprecedented times. And I think that where we make a lot of mistakes is by holding punches and not holding each other accountable. I think that's a
Absolutely.
important piece of, at least I know in military service, it's a huge thing, right? You make a mistake, and it's something that you have to be held to account for, and I'm not afraid or shy to voice the folks who have been in opposition of this bill.
Right.
Because it's true. It's the truth.
Yeah,
I could easily say, oh, we're facing headwinds when it comes to the bill, but that doesn't serve anyone if you don't identify what those challenges and who those challenges are.
right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your work and support in supporting women veterans and bringing equity is definitely needed. I know we were able to, Lavapsy was able to get on and on public comment and testify in support. So
That's good.
we're
And
ready.
thank you.
We're with you. So just let us know what you need from us.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a massive help. We're right now. I'm in the midst of the meeting phase, but we're trying to do everything we can to get this bill a work session so that it can get past the assembly.
Okay.
There's a lot of veteran friendly assembly folks, but I mean, as far as the government affairs committee, we got told, oh, next time, and veterans were kind of tired of that. Every time I go out, I'm famous for my green jacket. Every time I go out with the green jacket during campaign season, everyone wants to take pictures, but nobody wants to support veterans when it comes time to pushing our bills and our agenda. So I think this is a particularly bad time to oppose a labor bill because we're about to face economic downturn. And you're basically saying that women and veterans are not going to have the opportunity to get good paying jobs in the time where they need them most.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of these individuals also are freshmen, and I don't know who their mentors are, but they're not doing a very good job. And these freshmen, in whatever role that they're in, our new electeds, if you're not listening, you have either a 2-year term or a 4-year term, and we will be looking at those seats and finding people to run against you if you're not at least meeting the needs somewhere. Because we are in a different culture and a climate, going back to what the topic is tonight about society and where we are. And as Democrats, or at least just as human beings, we should be on the same page of trying to help one another. And that's where I'm at. We're in these different election cycles, and people think they get in these positions and that they're just there for themselves, or they're asking for the white envelope, which means it's money. And then if you're not giving them money, or these big corporations that can just buy you out, the grassroots is coming after you to put it on the table. And even some of our higher ranking elected officials that have been there, that's looking at running for other offices. Because I think the governor's seat is up. We have Aaron Ford running for that. Nicole, I forgot her last name, but I think I think she's getting ready to run for something. But enough is enough. And like I said, I'm here for the shenanigans. I'm here to be the disruptor for the people who are not ready for that. I'm here to be the fixer, whatever it is that we need to get done, because we are living in treacherous times and with an administration that does not care about your average individuals. So we're all in trouble across the board unless you are already a billionaire. So that's just.
Can I jump in as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Because you tapped on something, and I was eating cornbread, so I had to finish doing that. I apologize. But I liked about holding people accountable and really recognizing who are the people behind the scenes, because even though we have the tyrant in the White House, we have his, as Camilo has said, we have his minions, and we have people who have always been really aligned with that white supremacist, misogynistic kind of tone. And so when we're talking about transparency, we have to bring these things to the forefront, because when you look at how women are treated, when you look at how veterans are treated, when you look at how human beings are treated, and this is not some place in a far off land. When you go down Las Vegas Boulevard, Owens, and Main Street, you see it. And when you know that a great percentage of the homeless people are veterans, and you have to ask yourself this question: what is Clark County and what is Nevada doing for our neighbors, for our family members? Because they're getting our money and they're getting our votes. And to that point, I want to say, you have Rodney Smith, as well as independent Black voters, as well as um, the other was the Black Caucus. They have they have given these people surveys, and if you want to know who you're voting for, you need to check out all these people filling out the surveys, okay?
Yeah.
Also the Nevada Independent does surveys. You know,
Mhm.
you got Ballotpedia. There's a lot of resources that's at our fingertips that we can do just a little bit of research to see who what does this person do? What kind of clubs are they a part of? What's some of the charities that they're donating to? Because all of these organizations have done their homework so that we wouldn't feel so overwhelmed and be like, okay, I don't know enough about this person, so I'm not going to vote. Or I don't know who to pick, so I'm just going to pick somebody I'm familiar. Do not just pick someone you're familiar with, because a lot of times the people who we're familiar with are the people who throwing us under the bus. I don't
Right.
think they have the same skin color as us. All skin folk ain't kin folk. And we neglect to really live that because these are the same people who are treating us this way, who are dismissing us, who are with the power structure that are marginalizing us. And on that note, I would say that the Democratic Party need to get on their tippy toes and do what they're supposed to do because they're acting a little timid, but we know that's not their history. And we know they have a lot of resources and a lot of power that they could be utilizing right now, and that's what we need because we are citizens. We are the people who put them into those offices, and we could take them right back out. So
Right.
we need to understand what our recourses are and what our rights are as citizens and understand we do have research on these people. So if we see that this person voted against AB or AB bill or this bill or that bill, then we know what they're all about. And
Right.
we don't really need to, have a whole history on them to know because you voted against women, you voted against veterans, you
Mhm.
voted against pregnant women. You voted against these things, so I already know what your values are, and I don't align with them and hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Okay. Mm. And that leads us right into, I think, our conversation on cultic behavior and what we're experiencing in um obviously cults have been well alive and well, they're here, but we are, if you haven't paid attention to it, we're definitely experiencing that right now. So I wanted to share, and everyone, please jump in where you want. We can take this conversation wherever we want to go. So I wanted to start off first with defining what cultic behavior is. Um, so there are two psychologists, Margaret Singer and Robert J. Lifton, who are the leading psychologists in cult studies. And what they say is that cultic behavior is generally defined by a high level of control over individuals' thoughts, behaviors, and access to information. And it's like when I was sitting here getting the information for this, I was like, I can pinpoint all of what we are definitely seeing this play across social media. We're seeing this play across our school board. And speaking of, we have a cult member on the school board, maybe a couple of them. But I was really so
Maybe three of them.
maybe three. I was really upset when I saw this article come out about the article talked about CCSD maybe losing funding because of their DEI policies. In the article, I saw I saw that they highlighted one trustee, which is the one who's in the cult. And I was like, well, where's the pushback? Where is the pushback? Team, is DEI, is it against the law? It's against the law. Like there's a law that's made. I know there's executive order, but is there a law that says we cannot practice DEI?
So
Or
there's it.
it's just what the orange guy is just saying, but is it a law?
So the thing about it is the president doesn't make laws. Obviously, Congress
Right.
makes laws. But when the president signs an executive order, unless the court or the legislative branch countermands that executive order, then that executive order goes into play. And so in a lot of these, there has been no challenge to them, or when there have been challenges, he's lost some. But even when he loses, that doesn't mean he changes his behavior, because there's usually very little enforcement mechanism in this country for a president if he or she, in this case he, does not follow the rule. Because who are you going to send to arrest him? Because he controls the executive branch. And then his party, or his former party, now the MAGA party, controls the legislative branch. And then he has the majority representation in the judicial branch. So as long as the triumvirate is controlled by MAGA, if they choose not to do anything, then even though it's not a law, unless the people push back, it is as good as law.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing, like, I was listening to this word they're using, capitulate.
It's a good word.
They're saying, they're like, we're capitulating. You can't capitulate. And I'm thinking that means you can't just be silent. There was a young lady who did a really good model on, I think it was TikTok. And she had a bottle. She had like a bottle on a table. And she was like, look, this bottle is going to continue to move. This negativity is going to continue to move unless there's some type of force pushing it back. She said, she said, you can either support it and push it along. You can stand by. And this is what, and when she said this, I was like, oh my goodness, she talked about being neutral. Now, if you're neutral on a subject, this danger is still gonna move. You're gonna still move off the ledge. But if you're neutral, you're just on the side watching, and you're not impacting the movement of this negativity. But if you have some type of pushback, then at least there's some resistance. And I understand that, at the end of the day, when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, say something. Like, say something. But go ahead, somebody.
Oh, so with the executive order, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, please interrupt, please do.
But the power of the executive order is to get more like nitnoid with it, is it's an agency directive, right?
Okay.
So the Department of Education is under the executive branch, right? So his cabinet secretary serves at the pleasure of the president with the confirmation of the Senate. So when he sends out an agency directive, like, I'll give an example. President Trump rolled back the policy that states that federal contractors cannot have segregation, right, of facilities, right? So he's able to do that with an executive order because the Department of Defense is under the executive branch. So, but what it does is it sets further precedents for private industry, right? So I work for a defense contractor, and Trump rolled back equal opportunity protections for federal contractors. But my federal contracting company is a private business. So that's where it starts to get into private business. Just like the Department of Education, they have federal contractors too. The Department of Energy, the same thing. So when the president makes a directive with an executive order, because the executive branch is such a large portion of government, it controls a lot of different entities. So when he said we're going to systematically dismantle the Department of Education, he cannot do that because that would be a congressional act to get rid of the Department of Education. But he can instruct his secretary, Linda McMahon, to get rid of certain programs and policies and procedures and to investigate people. So that's kind of like where Trump is reaching, and a lot of the courts will, whether they are a conservative judge or not, will uphold the precedent that the president does have control over the executive branch, and I think that's where we have fundamental flaws in our Constitution, right, and our system of governance. When I talk to people about the Constitution and like the history of the country, the founding fathers they weren't concerned about anything else more than they were concerned about a demagogue, right? Like, don't elect a demagogue to be president because they don't have any moral restraints, right? Like when George Washington decided to leave office, that was a decision that he made to leave, which is known as one of the most selfless acts in American history, is that he chose not to be a king, right? But it's like when you have people like Donald Trump, they don't have that level of ethics or moral integrity. And what we're finding out is that all of this stuff is held together by like a 250 year old piece of paper, right? Like if someone doesn't believe in it, it's just a piece of paper.
Right.
So that's what Donald Trump is doing, is he's taking the Constitution and saying, this is just a piece of paper. I don't believe in it, and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want until someone stops me. And you're right, it's going to be the people. Like, I don't think that the cavalry is any one political party. Lord knows you can't count on the Republican Party to have decency right now in this moment, because they've completely abdicated their responsibility to be like a Politburo for Donald Trump instead of a Congress. And then the Democratic Party doesn't have a coherent, cogent strategy as to how they're going to fight against. It was unpopular, but I criticized Senator Cory Booker for his 24-hour speech because I said there was no bill on the floor. The time to do that would have been during the Laken Riley Act, when they were trying to pass that, the Clean CR, any one of the cabinet officials, Marco Rubio, who's probably going to go down as one of the worst secretaries of state in American history. He was confirmed with 98 votes. Like, that's absurd. That means that our senators here in Nevada voted to confirm Marco Rubio.
That right there was a hot. I got to go back and look at those votes, because I'm like, you guys, why would you vote for these people?
Yeah, I mean,
they already first and foremost, I totally don't understand it, because in my mind, like, they already have the votes. I'm definitely not gonna add my vote to this ignorance.
Exactly. That's
I
what
don't
I'm
understand
saying.
that. I really don't.
It's to me, it's absurd, because I look at it and I say that's the accountability. But the problem is that, we as Democrats, we have criticized MAGA for their occult behavior, right? But within the Democratic Party, we kind of have it as well, right? Like, when I hear certain things and I think critically about where we're at as a party. I mean, I was in the county party meeting, the recent one with Congresswoman Susie Lee, and she mentioned she spoke against identity politics. Well, for people of color, identity politics is real, right? So there is a luxury to the whiteness that exists within the Democratic Party, which is to say, the whiteness and the I would say in the straightness of the Democratic Party, to say we can just throw away identity when Black women still don't have equity in the party. LGBTQ people don't have true equity and power in the party. So it's not just about having a Black face on an ad, right? It's about having Black faces in the rooms where powerful decisions are being made.
Exactly. And Levi, you better come through on the Zoom tonight. You better come through. And this is why representation absolutely matters. It's why. And I wanted to point out that according to the psychologists who study cults, all the things that we've been hearing, it's authoritarian leader. So it's one leader or ideology. Y'all, I want to bring up one of these little speeches that Orange Guy was talking about. It literally made no sense. Just hand me the transcript. And the stuff that he says, it's like a bunch of gibberish. Also, the cults create a us versus them mentality. So cults create an enemy to unify the group, but demonize those who dissent or who are against what the group is saying is it. It's control of information. So through censorship, disinformation, and emotional manipulation. We're also seeing a demand for purity. So anything outside of the belief system is considered corrupt or evil. And also sacred science. So according to Lifton, 1989, the ideology is seen as an unquestionable truth. And I think what's so great, do I dislike the liar or the hypocrite? The hypocrite is the one that's getting on my nerves. And it's so crazy because we hear them a lot talking about you're indoctrinating our kids. And I'm thinking, wait, no, that's y'all. That's you. Wait, hold that is, are you kidding me? Wow. Let's see here. Cultic groups use manipulative and coercive persuasion tactics to foster dependency and control over members. Wow. Goodness gracious. In modern politics, here's some of the tactics that we've seen. We've seen conspiratorial thinking. So think about QAnon and also all this rhetoric around CRT. Goodness gracious, during my campaign, they demonized the mess out of me about some CRT. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? This is a whole research study, like a whole research ideology that's grounded, that comes out of the law field.
But Sister Camila,
yeah, go
when
ahead.
is the last time you've heard them mention CRT?
I haven't heard it.
So something that was that important to them,
Yep,
that turned the world for them, it's no longer a thing.
I have.
But
yeah,
before that, DEI wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I didn't
And
remember that one. Yeah.
now it's all DEI. These are all straw men that they make into boogeymen that really have no significance other what they name it. And I think we have to do a better job of pushing back on the nonsense, because it's not reality. It is, as you're articulating now, a part of the cultish behavior and followership that they have.
Wow. Another another thing that we're seeing in political context, some of their tactics are to demonize and I'm putting in quotes, those that they deem as other. So that's what we're seeing happening with immigrants, with Black people, with LGBTQ plus people, and with educators. I know that the cult person on our school board, she's always talking about educators are groomers. And I'm thinking, you hypocrite, is it Orange? I just seen him in a picture with all kinds of young girls. And the man said that he on the bus, when we heard him talking about the peas and stuff, I'm like, you guys are the biggest hypocrites ever in life. And you know what? And next school board meeting, I'm gonna have something for him. And apparently, one of the little MAGA cult members wrote a letter to the school board about me. That's my freedom of speech. I can say what I want to say. You hypocrites. But anywho, continue on. So another thing that we'll see is centralized narratives that are driven by ideological media that present one worldview as absolute truth. I actually listened to Fox 5 this morning, and I was like, what? That was a hot mess. That national Fox 5 was a hot mess. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And another characteristic that we're seeing is the suppression of dissenting views. So if anyone's giving pushback on your social media or your public platforms, including you'll see attacks on public educators or journalists. So this is what we are experiencing right now. And then I do want us to talk, once we get down a little bit more, talking about what is our work against these type of structures and what are some things that we could do to kind of fight back against this. Did anyone else have any thoughts?
So the conservatives have done a really good job of creating a media environment and a media apparatus.
Goodness gracious, yes.
And you know, the thing is that Donald Trump, be it he is a failed businessman, right? But the one thing he was good at was crafting narratives on his reality television show. So he's good. One thing he's very good at is dominating news cycles.
Oh my God.
And the thing is, the one thing he was good at was crafting narratives on his reality television. So he's good. One thing he's very good at is dominating news cycles.
Oh my God.
And the thing is, Okay, can everyone hear me now?
It's like some feedback.
Yeah, it was a weird feedback for a
That
second.
was totally me, and I'm sitting here. Who is that? And it was me. I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh, okay,
I'm so
okay.
sorry. That was me.
I was like, what's going on? So yeah, like when you talked about Fox 5, interestingly, the conservatives have spent years building an apparatus called the Sinclair Broadcast Group, and it allows them to channel the same exact messaging to states all around the country, right? So you may have like your local neighborhood news, like, oh, there's traffic on the Route 11, there's this, there's that, but then you'll also hear the same talking points. So someone who just watched Fox and Friends, at night is hearing the same exact messaging today, and I could see it with people that I served with. Right, there's people who are in the Teamsters Union that receive VA benefits that are anti-union, that are pro-Trump, and you say, "Hey, do you know what the National Labor Relations Board is, and why it existed, and that President Trump eliminated it?" They have no clue, right? They just know the narrative and these talking points, and I think that we don't, as Democrats, we don't have a apparatus to reach as many people, and they also capture people, like they captured Joe Rogan, to spread the disinformation aspect, but it's also a lot easier to spread lies, because the truth, you have to be researched, you have to know what the hell's going on. So a lie makes its way around the world before the truth can even put its pants on. That's the situation, is that I think a great example of it in looking at it truly is a debate with Donald Trump. Right? We've had two of the most qualified candidates in United States history run against Donald Trump, right? Both women, both were giving facts and information and figures, and he was able to say on stage, "I have concepts of a plan," right? Which was an unacceptable standard for Kamala Harris,
Right.
but
Exactly.
for Donald Trump, it was fine,
Right.
you
Concept, the
can't
hypocrisy.
combat him. The problem is that you can't combat people who are in cults with facts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that the only thing that allows them to wake up is the shame of it, of the
Mhm.
failure of it,
Mhm.
right? And I think with this, his policy failures are going to be what makes people take a step back and go, "Oh my God, I am in something that is much deeper than a political club. I'm in a cult."
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, you're so right. Who's that? Go ahead.
that's me.
Go ahead, Shaquilla.
Hi. So one of the biggest things to combating these egregious lies is education. Education and not indoctrination. You have a lot of people who say the education system is this education system is that. But one of the things we fail to take accountability for is that the first education system starts right here in the home. And so when you are committed to and convicted in your righteousness, and you know what the truth is, you have to then go on that journey of educating your family, educating yourself, so that we know what the truth is from a lie. And one of the things, like you said, when you go up against, it's like when you argue against somebody who's just unintelligent, but there's a reason he does the things that he does. And obviously his cult following is a proof to that. But are we educating ourselves? Are we, if we're misinforming someone, are we being corrected? Rodney is good with that. If you say something that's just not correct, he's going to correct you. Miss Tracy is a little more graceful. She'll give you a look and she might pull you to the side. But we have to correct each other when we are saying something that is wrong. And there's nothing shameful about saying something that is wrong necessarily, but if you keep saying it after you've been corrected, okay, now there's something different, right? And then the other part is, what are we doing for our individual selves, right? You don't have to go to some great HBCU. I didn't go to no HBCU, but I'm okay. You can educate yourself by going to the library. You can educate yourself by being with like-minded individuals. You can educate yourself from just staying informed and aware and then asking questions. It does not cost any money to ask questions. A simple question like why? And then that puts you on the path. So just as responsible as these these MAGAs and these Uncle Toms are, I'm sorry, Coons are, we have to hold ourselves accountable for allowing that false information to just enter our spaces unchecked, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's happening in our communities unchecked. And then we're like, okay, what do I do? Well, we have to arm ourselves with knowledge.
Absolutely. So really quick, I want to shout out the people on Facebook Live. I try to think of provocative titles that people be like, "Ooh, let me come see if they talking about me today." They talking about the cultic seduction of American society. I like to get us provocative. So here's some people that are online. A big shout out to Belinda Denise. Thank you so much. You're on Facebook. Also, we have Ceci B. When we were talking about the news, Fox 5, she said that we have Channel 3 here. And then Ceci BB also said they literally took the stock ticker off. And thank you so much for joining us, Ceci B. This is the first time I'm seeing your name in our chat, so thank you for joining us. We also have Chelsea May. She said, well, these views aren't true for everyone. Some of us who do lean right actually know what's going on. Ceci B has said, again, the double standard, but compounded. Chelsea May, I have tried to get our federal legislators to come to Nye County to meet for our SPED laws for over 2 years. Where have they been? Ceci B says media literacy is something that we need to focus in on. Okay. Chelsea May's talking about politicians lie. And there's a great conversation happening on it's great on the Facebook. So if you have the Facebook open, you can see the conversation. But thank you so much. Okay, so they're gonna go back and forth a little bit over there, but we're gonna continue.
What question? What? I don't know if this is a bipartisan thing or a nonpartisan thing, but what that guy is doing to the country
Mhm.
is it's not about Republican or Democrat, and it's not necessarily about right leaning or left leaning. He's actively destroying the Constitution. He's actively destroying the so-called checks and balances that's supposed to be held up. He actively used monies to sway the SCOTUS and to sway these lower courts, the appellate courts. So what right-leaning philosophy is being, I just need clarification because I'm just not sure what's being said. Him doing what he's doing is clearly against the Constitution, against the rights of all
Right.
American citizens. I mean, what he's doing is blatant. There's
Yeah.
no, there's no fallacy in this interpretation because
Right.
these are facts is what he's doing and he's been doing. So I just want it clear. Maybe I'm not understanding. I'm not that smart. I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding.
Explain it to me like a fifth grader, right?
Now, explain it to me
You
like I'm
gotta
a
explain it to me like a
two-year-old.
fifth grader.
Like I'm a 2-year-old, okay?
Yeah, but you're
So,
absolutely right. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Rodney. Go ahead.
so I went into, if you see me looking down, I went into the Facebook and I wanted to find out who was saying what. And one of the folks commenting says something about this being an open group, but how can it be an open group if it's so one-sided? And I thought about that for about a few seconds. And what's puzzling about that comment is the truth is not a side. The truth is the truth. Like a fact is a fact. That does not mean that the conversation or the discussion is not a discussion open to multiple opinions. We're all entitled to our opinion. But when
Right.
it comes to the fact of the matter, when it comes to the truth, it is not left or right. It is just a fact or the truth. It is not a side.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
if there is something that's not being truthful or not factual, then point out that untruth, point out that thing, give the fact if you believe that what we're saying is not accurate. But to simply say something like it's not an open group or a group that's open for varying opinions or thoughts, that is counterfactual, because we are open. But if you bring an opinion, state it as an opinion. If you bring a fact, you bring that fact and then be able to back up that fact. You read the definitions of cultish behavior from people who study in that and have letters in that. If there is a disagreement in what they're saying through their education, then bring up the fact to counter that. But to simply disagree with it, you're entitled to disagree, but then that's your opinion. That's not a fact. And what we're talking about in here is fact, and that has no side, no party.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's a very important point. Because I've been hearing this a lot. They're like, we're at the point where this is beyond left, right, middle, center. This is humanity that's being impacted by these things that are specifically impacting Black people. And can't nobody, I don't care, can nobody tell us what's not impacting us and what that looks like from our perspective or narrative. So just some of the topics that we've talked about, like it's happening, it's real, and that's just really what it is. I don't understand. I don't listen, you're if you're saying you're Republican, I don't understand any of that. I don't understand what that is at this time in society. And someone needs to clarify for me who you are, what do you believe, and are you still with all of this drama and mess?
So let's be factual about the Republican Party.
Okay.
The Republican Party, as set up, has a particular scheme of things. In other words, to be Republican, this is what it means. Small government, that's a tenet of the Republican Party. Conservatism, especially economic conservatism, right? Not being in people's private lives, that is a tenet of conservatism adopted by the Republican Party. What we're seeing today is very much in our private lives,
Absolutely.
in almost every aspect. What we're seeing today is big spenders. Remember, they used to be about how do we save money? The biggest budget deficits in history have been brought about by the recent Republican Party. The biggest deficits, the biggest tax in the peacetime history of this country was just enacted by this administration, which is supposed to be low tax. So the Republican Party is something that did exist, but it does not exist today other than name only. What we do have is the MAGA movement that has taken over what used to be the Republican Party, and its tenets are whatever the person at the top, which is, again, the truth as stated in cultist behavior, is the person at the top determines what the truth is. If someone wants a great example of this, please read 1984. Right. And it will show you this in literature. So another thing that we non-MAGA people have to do is push back on people who come with their counterfacts, that come with their false narratives, come with their false victimization, and to be quite honest, who aren't even talking things that are basic American tenets. America is a country of addition. It has never been a country of subtraction. And all these people are doing is take, and give to those who have more than anyone else. This tariff, the fake narrative of immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
How can you have a country built on immigrants if you say you don't want immigrants? How can you say you support the Constitution if you violate the 4th, 5th, 9th, 12th Amendment by taking Americans and sending them without trial, without due process, to another country, not even their country of origin, and then put them in a prison? Remember, they're not guilty of anything. And then, even when you acknowledge that you did it falsely, which is big, go to the Supreme Court to uphold the false behavior. There is a problem there, and we need to call it as a problem. And if somebody wants to challenge me, I'll take it there. Then let's talk about the facts. And I'm here 24/7.
I think one of the things that we do have to
Amen.
I think one of the things that we have to look at, though, as well, is what led to the culmination of this, right? What led to these conditions to have a demagogue like Trump in office, right? What fueled it? When you look at the history of the presidency of the United States, it was quite simple in the beginning, right? The president was formed to be the person to dispatch the military and to provide civilian oversight and be the commander in chief, right? Before, the founders were so discontent with the notion of a king that they created the Articles of Confederation. Then we formed the President of the United States. But when you historically look at the Republican Party in the modern era, they've always kind of been on the side of enhancing the power of the presidency. As a matter of fact, there's something called unitary executive theory, right? That the Republican Party, modern Republican Party, believes in. A thing that we have to do as Democrats is call out when our leaders also participate in enhancing that level of power, right? I'll give you an example. Post the Patriot Act, which is one of the most intrusive infringements on Americans' rights to quote unquote tackle global terrorism, it allowed for the direct infringement of Americans' rights. We've since had 2 Democratic presidents since who have not rolled back those provisions that grant the power that grant the president this much power, right? An example of it kind of starts all the way back to even LBJ, right? Like the War Powers Act, and the Signal Chat was a clear demonstration of that. Now the president of the United States has the purview to conduct a direct strike halfway across the world, and call it in the name of national emergency, right? Those are the culminations. Those slight additions of power to the executive are the culmination of what we have now, because President Trump is utilizing that apparatus, right? He's utilizing the executive office in the same ways that it's been utilized in the past, based on precedent. And I think that we have to have continuous and even-handed, I would say, application of criticism when both Democratic and Republican presidents do it, right? President Obama was notorious for saying, I have a pen and I have a phone, right? Like saying that he would utilize executive authority as well. I think we should be calling that out from now on. I think the president of the United States, the role should be significantly reduced to pretty much what it was under President Jimmy Carter. And I think we need to have Congress step up and rein in the power of the executive and be a true check and balance, instead of a Politburo that just capitulates to the presidency.
So I do want to add, I want to comment on that. When you reference President Obama saying he had a pen and a phone, I think that needs to be some context around that. Because at the time, Congress had said that their sole mission was to make him a one-term president and not to do their job, which means the American people would suffer. The president, being the chief executive, wanting to provide for the American people, used the power available to him to act in the absence of Congress and to act for the good of the American people. That is totally different from what we see going on now. So there is no comparison of the two other than that they're both executive orders. There is a place for executive orders. Here's an example for the founder of the former Republican Party. Notice I said former Republican Party, Abraham Lincoln. The Emancipation Proclamation was an executive order. I don't think we're going to argue that President Lincoln should have just waited for Congress to act while our people were being held in bondage and not do something. So executive orders do have a place. It is not executive orders or the power of executive orders per se that is the problem. It is the person that we elect who and how they choose to use that particular power.
I I agree, but I do think that I do believe that intentionality and I'll say that I'm not saying that the Emancipation Proclamation by no means am I saying the Emancipation Proclamation is a bad thing, right? But I do think when you talk about the modern presidency, it has become a significant issue to the point now where we have this culmination into this demagogue. I think that a lot of the power, and when you talk about context of the Emancipation Proclamation, the United States was actually split at that time, so you couldn't even use the apparatus of Congress because you had Confederate representatives from the South that were participating in the United States government, because even though they ceded from the Union, they didn't cede their seats in Congress. And that's why passing the 14th Amendment was such a big problem, was because these people still occupied seats. There were even duels on the floor of Congress. But when you talk about the responsibilities and roles of Congress, I think that we have to be intentional about who we elect there to be the checks and balances on the executive. One thing that we can take away from the strategy of John Boehner and Mitch McConnell at the time that were being obstructions to President Obama is that they had a strategy and they were digging their heels in. I think right now is the time for us to dig our heels in and have that same type of strategy with President Trump. I mean, I think that we've capitulated and given him everything he wanted. We have Russell Vought in the Office of Management and Budget, the same guy who said that federal employees should be in fear of going to work and turning everyone into Schedule F employees. To bring it back to the topic, though, that's the purity test, right, of Donald Trump. And I think Congress is the institution to put a halt to that, because the judiciary can create a stopgap, but it's really the members of Congress that we've elected that should be standing up and fighting and getting into, as John Lewis would say, good trouble right now.
So I want to go back to the Facebook live chat. There's someone in the chat who, as far as I know, volunteered to join the program,
Right.
but is now ridiculing the program, and for her opinion to be challenged with fact is now demeaning this podcast that we've been doing now since Sister Camila was running for school board, and says, well, that's why you only have 9 viewers. Well, you said something about, we're talking about elementary behavior, and Sister Camila was reading off cultish behavior. So we have a real-time example of cultish behavior in the Facebook live chat right now that falls right in line with the things that Sister Camila was reading in the definition. Yeah. So we don't need to argue with this person. We present them with the facts. Now, because they're in a cult, the facts can only come from the cultist leader, because anything else cannot be fact according to the concept of cultism. So I understand why the things that we're saying and when we present the fact does not seem to penetrate the disinformation that this person unfortunately has been poisoned with. But
Right.
I say, we, and I'm not even a Democrat, but we, those of us who truly believe in the idea of America, have to recognize these people. We do and need to share facts with them. But when you realize that they are oblivious to the fact, that they may hear it, but they are not listening because one is passive and the other is active, we should not waste too much time on them. We should move on, not let them be a distraction, not let them sap our energy. Remember what you said earlier about lies and how fast it goes around the world before you even put your pants on? Well, there's a technical term for that, and I've used it on the show before, and it's called gish gallop. And so
Yeah.
when someone spews misinformation and even worse, disinformation, the time and effort, according to Brandolini's law, to counter that is an inordinate amount of time. And we're not, and I'm spending a lot of time on it now to make a statement, we are not going to do that on this podcast. We will share the facts. And if a person wants to continue in their abhorrent and cultish behavior, they can do that, but they will get no time, no more time on this show. So we can bypass her. And if she wants to present the facts, I'm here for it. But the cultish behavior, as articulated by definition, that's being exhibited, take that as exhibit A, and then we move on from there.
Right. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Goodness great. This was a great conversation. And I knew that this topic would bring some people out. And that was the point. The point was to bring people out because we have to understand and recognize what is happening here. I love the engagement on Facebook. I absolutely do. And you know what, Ceci B, let me give you your flower, sis, because you was in there. Okay. Get it. I had such a great time today. Did anybody want to do any? Well, let me just say, I'm gonna just leave us with this last. We didn't get into all of the sections, which is fine. But one thing I wanted to just really brief is the next part we wanted to talk about was Moms for Liberty or Mothers of Manipulation. And I just want to leave us with this part because they have been very influential in wanting efforts to suppress DEI work. And here's what Hagerman 2020 says about that. Efforts to suppress DEI work are part of a broader culture war to restore white Christian hegemony in schools. And that's why when I saw that article with one cult member with the response, and there was no pushback, no anything, like I'm not, for me, I haven't even heard anyone say, well, I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe this is great for our community. But I'm not hearing any of the pushback. And, that's actually kind of frustrated for me, for people who are elected in positions, because I'm like, if you're not, then what are you saying when we're not around, when the people are not, if you're not saying anything when we're seeing you on public dais or wherever you are leading in your leadership chair, wherever, I have zero beliefs and thoughts that you are defending your constituents when you're by yourself in the back room. I really do. But I'm going to leave us there. This was a great conversation. Did anybody have any last words before we roll out? This is a great conversation.
I just wanted to add, I agree with everything that everybody has said thus far. I do know that people come in with the distractions and to get us off track of what the topics are or whatever the conversation is that's being had. But at the end of the day, we're trying to be solution oriented, because maybe we can come up with a solution to present to our congressional people or our local leaders, because obviously, this is me speaking for myself, they're not doing the job. And one person, was a few of them that Camilla and I've talked about, but I absolutely love the spirit and the fire of Jasmine Crockett. she pulls no punches. We don't have that here. I mean, if we have it, I haven't seen it. And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors when these people are meeting with different ones in these spaces and straddling the fence. We're not in a position at this point in our lives or in this period of our whatever we're going through to be straddling the fence or trying to play patty cake baker's man. We're not there no more. We have to be focused, we have to have a plan, and we have to be able to execute and move forward because there's just so much at stake. But I do want to thank everyone, Mr. Levi, for coming in and giving a whole, a lot of background on what's going on with our veterans. We just have a lot going on, guys. Even in the education sphere, like I said, with CCSD, they've become very lackadaisical, I guess, because they know that there's going to be a new shifting of the guard with Superintendent Joan Ebert coming in. And it's almost like they've just stopped doing anything. And so we still have people moving on, our children specifically, trying to expel them when we only have maybe 6 to 7 weeks of school left. We're talking about 3rd and 4th graders. We haven't even hit middle school, but this is that window, this is that time when we start getting these calls because the administrators that they have put in position, number one, they're not adequately trained. Number two, they're the friend of a friend of a friend. They have not gone through leadership. And then we have to sit here and go backwards and forwards with them to show them or to teach them about keeping kids in school. So it's not only at the education level, it's at every level that we have. It's the pipeline to prison for all of us at this point. So that's my little soapbox for this evening. I just want to say thank you to everyone for the lively engagement on Facebook, because that's just been, it's serious, but it's funny because you have to find the humor in this stuff to laugh, to keep from just really going there with some of these people because they're not listening, or whatever their messaging is working for them, but it's not working for the rest of us. So
Right.
I'm just going to say that, and I'm going to leave it there. And thank you once again, everyone.
Yeah. Mr. Rodney?
So the way you started out the show with the analogy of that bottle moving to the edge of the table and how it will continue to move if those who are just standing by, it continues to move. For those who don't want it, they have to do something to stop it or to counteract it. And I remember when I was thinking of what my doctoral thesis would be for my psychology degree, I had decided that I was going to write it and show how the human mind is linked to physics. And that is that an object in motion stays in motion until an equal or opposite force is exerted upon it. We all learn that in school, right? Well, from my studies, I found that the human mind and humans work very much the same way. Once we start thinking, acting, moving in a direction, we will keep moving in that direction until there is some type of physical force exerted on us to cause us to stop and or change course.
Yeah.
So the young lady who presented that, she probably would have done a better job in the dissertation than me to justify it and defend it. As a matter of fact, I may take another whack at it and use her video.
Yeah, but I think I shared it. I think I shared it on my Facebook. I'll find it and share it again. It was
but
really
that is exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. The MAGA movement is, it's sort of like the train cars during World War III Nazi Germany, when a lot of times the Jews would just watch the train cars go by with their neighbors and sometimes their family on it, and they didn't do anything.
Right, yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of reasons psychologically and sociologically why they didn't, but it was new to them. It's not new to us. And we should know better. But apparently we don't. I've said it before, and I've said it at the gathering. This country's power is in its people. There are more of us who believe in the ideas of America than there are of the MAGA movement.
Right.
And it is up to those who believe in those ideas of America to set aside whatever other differences that we may have in order to save what we have and then rebuild it and make it into something better. Otherwise, when we lose it as we see things are slowly slipping from us, it is very difficult to get them back. And the more you lose, the more you will lose, because again, we get into that human nature and the physics of it. So sometimes we have to exert ourselves more than we have before, even if that means getting in front of this train that's moving to stop it. Similarly to how the current POTUS wants to have a 4-mile parade for his birthday to honor him. I would encourage every able-bodied veteran and every veteran that can be pushed in the wheelchair. That is a good time for us to go and plug up the roads of Washington, D.C. If you have a car, especially if you have a hoopty, feel free to take it and let it break down in the parade path, because the only thing that may stop him from showing himself to be the dictator is in using our troops, those are our children, using them to prop himself up may require those of us who took the oath and whose years have long since passed on actively serving to remember that oath has no expiration. And it does say enemies, both foreign and domestic. And he is attacking the Constitution and has even said he doesn't believe in the Constitution. He is doing things by sending Americans and those who live in America to concentration camps. A prison in El Salvador, when you read about it, that's how it reads. Doesn't have that name, but how does it function? This is happening with someone who sits in the highest office of the United States of America, who is attacking our allies. And what I'm saying is to all veterans, but really to all people who believe in the basic tenets and the founding principles of America, which actually date back into Ethiopia and into Egypt. They come from Africa. This is a time for us, if we truly are and believe in the ideas and concepts of this country and the freedom, we need to stop it now, because once a certain level of momentum and inertia builds, there may be no stopping that train, especially once it gets on the downhill slide. This is the defining moment of our time in the 21st century, just like the civil rights movement was one of the defining moments in the 20th century. The only question is, will we do at least what our ancestors and elders did to give us the lives that we have now? And how, when we become ancestors, assuming there's still history classes, how will our progeny look back at us in our defining moment?
Well said. And with that, we leave you to enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. Today, we talked about the cultic seduction of American society. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday with another topic. If you are interested in participating in our show, please join. If you have a show topic, please let us know. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
You too. Good night.
Bye.